Well, good morning, Vale Church. I hope you guys are all having a wonderful weekend, this 4th of July weekend. Super excited to get into the Word today with you guys. I wanted to introduce myself first, though. If you haven't met me yet, my name is Chris Torres, and I am the family pastor here. And so what you're going to do is you're going to be seeing me working. We're going to be bringing in a couple of new people on staff. And so we're just super excited to be a part of what God is doing here at Vale in Bloomington Normal. And I just want you to know that I come from Albuquerque, New Mexico. That is in the United States, I promise. But I've seen a lot of brown. Like my whole life, it's just been brown. And like now I'm seeing all this green. And it's like amazing to me. Like yards have grass in them, not rocks. Because that's all that I was used to. And your thunderstorms, goodness gracious, they scare me to death. Like they're shaking my house. And it scares me. And the humidity, I mean, let's be real. No man should ever just walk outside of the house and in 2 seconds be in a full court basketball game of sweat. It's disgusting. But we're super excited to be here, and I want to take a moment to just kind of introduce my family to you. So if you look at the screen, there's a picture of my gorgeous wife, Caitlin Marie Torres, and my sweet little baby boy, Hezekiah. We call him Hezzy, so don't feel like you have to come mumble-jumble some name that you didn't remember. We just call him Hez. Call him Hez. But he's literally the greatest kid. I'm not just a biased parent. My kid is great. He never cries, just awesome. I only wanted 2 kids before him, now I want 5. Because I'm like, if they all act this way, then it'll be perfect, right? Well, let's bow our heads. We're going to pray really quick, and I'm going to jump right into the message. God, thank you so much for today. God, thank you for our time together. Lord, I pray that you would speak clearly through me, God, and that you would convict our hearts to walk out of this building living a life that has been changed by your word. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. Well, we are in a brand new series called Maxed Out. And so what we're going to do over the next few weeks is we're going to look at areas, categories, arenas, whatever you want to call it, in our lives where it's very easy for us to become maxed out. Right? Such as finances, such as physical fitness, such as friendships. Anybody have that friend that just sucks the life out of them? Well, today, what we're going to do is we're going to start in time management. We're going to talk about maximizing your time instead of becoming maxed out. And so I'm really excited to do this because just a quick poll, but how many of you would say that you could use an extra hour in your day? Raise your hand. Excellent, 100%. Now, how many of you, let's be a little more honest, a little more candid, how many of you would say, I probably don't always use wisely the hours that I do have? Yeah? Awesome. 100% again. Well, I'm right there with you. I tend to misuse my time all the time. I'll give you a quick story before we jump in. When I was going to school, I was completing the rest of my degree online, and my wife was leaving the house for the evening, and she said, hey, honey, now would be a great time for you to do your homework. And I agreed with her 100%, absolutely. So when she left, I didn't do it. She left the room, and I did what I normally did. I jumped on Facebook for probably 35 minutes. Just scrolled till I got bored, and then I jumped on Instagram. And then I scrolled till I got bored, and about 15 minutes later, I did what no husband should ever do when they're alone in a house. I began to think. Wives, you know what I'm talking about. And I began to think, and I said, I'm going to use this time not to do my homework, but I'm going to train my cat how to walk on a leash. The dumbest thing I've ever done. Like, it took 15 minutes to even get a leash on him. And my arms were so clawed up. They were like bleeding all over the place. And this cat wanted to kill me. And I still think he's scared of me. Every time I have a rope in my hand, he runs and hides under the bed. But I got this leash on him, and he didn't necessarily respond how I thought he was going to respond. Like, I thought he was going to take to the normal motions of walking on a leash. He just flopped over on his side. And I was like, Well, maybe if I start moving him, the motions will take place. So here I am for 35 minutes, dragging my cat on his side around my apartment. And so I started shooting Instagram videos of it because I thought it was hilarious. Because he's just like on his side, like, trying to get it off. Anyway, I waste my time all the time. And here's what I want to do is I want to show you guys, I want to point out just a few things about time. Nothing that's going to blow your mind. I'm sure you already know it. I just want to bring it to the forefront of today's discussion, of today's teaching. Just some things that I've learned about time. And the first thing is this, is I've learned that time is valuable. Okay, how do I know that? Because you spend it. Right? You can spend it with your family. You can spend it with your friends. You can spend it at a park. You can spend it at the gym. You can spend it training cats how to walk on leashes. But you spend it. Okay? I also know that it's valuable because it's cumulative. Okay? Now, what does that mean? That means that what you do for a period of time, over time, has a summative amount. So if I go to the gym 3 days, 4 or 5 days a week, for week after week, month after month, year after year, there's going to be a difference in the way that I look versus if I just did it once a week. Okay, is that making sense? Let me point it to you this way. If you were to start a savings account, it would look very different if you only did it for a month than if you've been doing it for 20 years. It's a cumulative. What you do over time has a full amount to it. Okay, I've also learned that time is a tool. So I forgot to tell you this. If you guys want to pull out your apps, you can follow along and you can put these in. I love giving you stuff to go home with, okay? So you can fill this in on your app also. But time is a tool. How do I know that it's a tool? I know that because I use it, right? When you're doing the right things, typically you're using your time to do them. You use your time to connect with Jesus. You use your time to connect with your spouse. You use your time to be a good father or to be a good mother. You use your time. Okay? It's a tool. But you use it when you're doing the right things. You can also abuse it, can't you? Can't you abuse the time that you got? By going out, getting drunk and wasted on a Friday night? Can't you abuse the time that you have by staying up super late and then sleeping in the next morning? Bosses love that, don't they? You can abuse your time. So when you use it, you do the right thing. When you abuse it, you do the wrong thing. You can also misuse it. You can do the right thing at the wrong time. So it's good to ask your girl to marry you. Probably not the smartest idea to do it after your first date. So we can do the right things at the wrong time. We can use our time. We can abuse our time. We can misuse it. Everybody pay attention really quick. You never can reuse it. Ever. You don't get a second time. Once it's gone, it's gone. So for all those people that walk around saying, I'm trying to make up for lost time, you're saying an incorrect statement. You'll never get that time back. And some of you, I know, are desperately trying. But I'm going to help you all out. You'll never go back to your days in high school. So stop acting like it. Wives, I'm going to help you out. All you husbands out there that are desperately trying to relive your senior glory years on the baseball team, it's over, Bubba. Get rid of that Letterman jacket. It's gross and it's disgusting. You're 59 years old. You'll never get time back. Once it's gone, it's gone. And so since time is valuable and time is a tool, what I've learned is that in our minds, we can kind of create this idea that we just have a lot of it ahead of us. So we look back and we go, oh man, I've wasted time. But thank God I got all of this ahead of me. Now I want to I sat down and I did some just basic math. I just want to kind of show you that that's not exactly so true. Because when I look at my week, I think, oh man, I got all week to take care of stuff. But then usually at the end of my weeks, I end up going, well, how come I didn't get any of this done? So let me just show you a couple of things. Basically, you have 168 hours in a week, okay? 168 hours to connect with Jesus, to raise your family, to work a job, to get physically in shape, to spend time with your kids. Yay. That's a lot of time, 168 hours. I'm going to pull out two things, okay? Just two things that we all typically, most of us do, okay? So, and I'm going to be very general, so maybe you do it more or less, but I'm just going to go very general, okay? So the first thing I'm going to pull out is work. If we pull out work, if you work 40 hours a week, okay? That's 40 hours. If you pulled out 8 hours a night, I know most of us don't really sleep that, but you should be. If you pulled out 8 hours a night, you took 40 and 56, you add them together, that's 96. If you subtract that from 168, you end up with 72 hours. Guys, all I did was pull out two things, work and sleep. And now you've gone from a 7-day week to you've got 3 days. 3 days to grow in your relationship with Christ, to be a good father, to be a good mother, to spend time with your family. To me, that doesn't seem like a lot of time. So the question becomes is, since I don't have a lot of time, how can I make the best use of the time that I have? So if you got your app, you got your Bibles, go to Ephesians chapter 5. This is going to be kind of the overarching verse for the day. And what we're going to do is we're going to kind of pick this apart. So just to kind of preference myself a little bit, I love the literature. I love to read Greek and Hebrew, and I love what the words mean because I think it just paints a beautiful picture when we kind of dive into those. So you're going to see me do that a lot when I teach. But if you got it, go to Ephesians 5. Chapter 5, verse 15 and 16, okay? Okay, let's read it. Look carefully. So they're saying, pay attention. Take note. Watch out then how you walk. Not as unwise, but as wise, making the, everybody say this with me, best use of the time because the days are evil. Okay, so here we have Paul writing to the church of Ephesus. And the church of Ephesus is surrounded by pagans, by Gentiles, and other churches full of other gods. And what he's saying is look, if you don't learn to use your time wisely, you're going to be sucked into using your time in ways that are not going to benefit you, in ways that are not going to matter. And I want to point out really quick, there's only two ways to use your time. There's an unwise way, and there's a wise way. There's no in between. Now, the ancient Greek word here that's used for wise, listen to this. It blew my mind when I read this. It literally means skilled. Skilled, cultivated, or learned. So what are they saying? Basically what they're saying is a wise person isn't born better than you and I. Just throughout their lifetime, they've learned and cultivated, they've become skilled at how they use the time they have. Okay, this is the difference between a wise person and an unwise person. An unwise person basically means the opposite. It means unskilled, but it also means foolish. So we have two people, one that becomes skilled at how they use their time. They don't just let the day dictate what's going to happen to them. And then we have a fool that just goes around doing the same things they always do. Those are the only two. Okay, and then the word for time, I love this, because the word for time that's used here is the word kairos, okay? The word kairos, this is amazing. Check this out. It means opportunity. Doesn't that change our entire definition? What if I didn't look at time as something that's just fleeting, that tells me when to go to lunch, that tells me when to put the baby to bed, that tells me when to go home for the day? What if I looked at time as an opportunity? Isn't that a little bit different? And what's interesting about this word kairos is it comes from the Greek word kara, which literally means head. So a kairos is a time when things come to head, which means that it requires a decisive action or a decisive decision on our part. Well, Pastor, what's the decision? Well, when the time comes, the decision is how are you going to use it? Will you use it skillfully or will you use it foolishly? There's only two ways to do it. That's the decision. And that's what this passage is painting here. Do you do it wisely, or will you do it unwisely? And I think it paints for us a really different picture when we understand time as an opportunity, because I'm going to be honest with you, I blow my time very easily. But I would never blow an opportunity. Would you? If you had the opportunity to travel around the world, would you blow that? If you had the opportunity to move up in your career, would you blow that? I wouldn't. If you had the opportunity to make more money, hello, I wouldn't blow that. So then how come I blow my time? How come I blow the one opportunity that I'm never going to get back? The one opportunity that God has given me on this earth. Because the truth is a lot of us waste our opportunities that we have. I mean, think about it. How many of us in this room right now have wasted opportunities with our kids? They're in the same room, but we sit there scrolling through Facebook. Wasting an opportunity. How many spouses are in here that you've wasted an opportunity to be with your wife or your husband because you've decided to choose to use your time to spend it giving extra to your work? You don't let the one person you made a vow to, the one person you said, I'm going to stick by you no matter what, till death do us part, for better, for worse, to dictate how you spend your time. You allow your boss to do that. I want everybody to look up here. How many of us, we've blown the opportunity to be with God because of busy work? Because we just let the day get away from us. Man, I don't want to be like that. If there's one person that deserves my time, it's Jesus. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, I can't give you another hour. But I can, through the scripture, show you the best use of how to make your time. So go ahead and flip over to Luke, the 10th chapter, or flip with me in your Bible app or whatnot. We're gonna read from verse 10. Again, very famous verse, Martha and Mary, the story of them. We're going to look at them and their life. And let's begin in verse 38 of chapter 10. It says this, and Jesus and his disciples were on their way. He came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home. Okay, that's important, remember that. To him, she had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her to help me. Now keep your finger right there. I'm going to go back to this passage in just a second, but I want to point out that in this story there's three people. Well, there's more people in the house, but only three we need to take note of. There's Jesus, Martha, Mary. We're going to look at the two. We're going to look at Martha and Mary. So get this. They're in the same house, both girls, at the same time. And if we look at time as the word kairos, what does that tell us? They both had the same opportunity. Both are in the same house with the same opportunity. One is running around like a chicken with her head cut off. I'm preaching to somebody now. The other is choosing to sit at the feet of Jesus. Now, before we get all huffy and puffy and start painting Mary or Martha out to be this bad person, I need you to understand something, because typically when we read this passage, we westernize it. We don't understand the culture or the custom of that day. And the culture of the custom, actually, Martha was in the right. Because remember I pointed out that she owned the home? It was on the homeowners, it was their responsibility to do three things: provide entertainment, hospitality, and food. So basically in this story, Martha is doing what's normal. Martha's doing what everybody else would normally do. Mary, on the other hand, is what? She's sitting at the feet of Jesus. Sitting at the feet of Jesus, listening to him speak. Now, I want to point out, when it says listening to him speak, the word that's used there is the word logos, which you may have heard before. It literally means, in the Greek translation, the word. Okay? It's John chapter 1. In the beginning was the Word, The Word was with God, and the Word was God. So basically, Jesus is here on a couch, God himself, speaking the Word, and Mary's absorbing it right from the very mouth of God. Isn't that incredible? I want to point this out to you. Go ahead and write this down if you got notes. Martha did what was normal. She allowed culture and the custom of the day to kind of just pull her into any direction to do everything that she would normally do. And I think that's where a lot of us fall into the category is, man, we just do what people normally do. Right? If I can justify that other people do it, it's okay for me to spend my time doing it. If other husbands go out and get drunk every Friday night, I could do the same. If otherwise we'll waste hours watching soap opera and scrolling through Facebook, I could do the same. But it's normal. Martha did what was normal. Write this down. While Mary did what was needed. Mary did what was needed, not just what was normal. My question for you is, when was the last time you've evaluated your life and asked yourself the question, am I doing what I normally do all the time? Or am I doing what's needed? When was the last time you asked yourself that question? For some of you, it may be very normal to be busy. I see busy people. Like, in fact, I feel like all the people that I've met in Bloomington, they're always just so busy. They're like, I got to go do this, and I got to pick up these people and do this, and I'm just like, ugh. Glad I don't have your schedule. It may be normal to be busy, but have you asked yourself, is it needed? It may be normal for you to work 60 hours a week. Have you asked yourself, is it needed? It may be normal for you to go out and party on the weekends and wake up in somebody else's bed. Have you asked yourself if that's needed? I can answer that for you today. It's not. So you have to evaluate. You have to say, am I using my time to do what I normally do, or am I using my time to do what's needed? And I love Jesus' response here to this problem. He says this. He says, Martha, Martha. Now check this out. Every time you see a word followed by the exact same word, they're doing what we would call emphasizing. Okay, so as a pastor in today's culture, if I wanted to emphasize something, I would get up here and I would go, hey! Or I would shout. I would get your attention. I would stomp my feet. I would get big. They didn't need to do all that in their day. All they did was repeat themselves, and it meant pay attention. I'm about to say something. This also meant that he was emphasizing affection because Martha was his friend. Remember, Martha's not a bad person, just misused her time. Like a lot of us, we're not bad people. We just misuse our time. And so he says, you are worried and upset about so many things. And I love how he didn't point out just the one incident. He didn't say, Martha, this thing's got you messed up. He says, there's so many things in your life. You've become so busy doing the normal that you're missing the needed. You have an opportunity right now, and I want you to see this. When Martha's choosing to do what's normal, not only is she missing God, she's also missing her sister. Both are in the other room. And I want to tell you that usually when we get busy doing what we normally do, your family and Jesus are probably the two that get thrown on the back burner. He says, so many things have got you upset, but few things are needed, or indeed, only one. Mary has chosen. She chose what was better. And I want you to know it's a choice. Nobody chooses for you. Your boss does not dictate how you use your time. Your wife, your kids, they don't dictate how you use your time. It's a choice. You choose, and at the end of your life, you're going to look back and either you chose what was wise, you became skilled and you decided, man, I'm not going to let my day take me. I'm going to take my day and I'm going to plan some things out. Or you chose foolishly. but it's your choice. Nobody else decides that. And he says, and it will not be taken from her. Guys, I can promise you one thing. I'm not like a prophet or anything, but I can promise you this, that the moment you try to prioritize and do what's needed, the kitchen sink is going to come at you. I'm just being honest. Stuff is going to happen in your life. The washing machine is going to break. Your kids are going to need to go somewhere. You're going to have to go and gas up the car. You're going to have to protect it. Mary, I think when I read this, I can't help but picture Mary having this just strong conviction of not doing what everybody else was doing. She knew that it was expected of her to be preparing the meals, to be putting on the entertainment, to be getting everything ready. She knew that. So don't you think it probably caused her a little turmoil inside when she made a choice to do what was needed? Oh, I think it did. And I can promise you that when you make that same choice, you're going to experience the same turmoil. You're going to have the normalcy try to creep back into your life. You're going to have Facebook messages and emails and Instagram notifications and all of these things that are going to try to suck you away from doing what is absolutely needed. And it's up to you to protect it. So I want to give you, there's lots of ways to kind of, to maximize the time that you have. I want to give you just one, okay? I want to give you just one because I'm a big fan of one. Why? Because I'm a guy, and if I can remember one thing, I can do it. That pretty simple. So I'm going to give you all one thing, okay? And this is what I want you to do next week. And this is what you got to do. Do what is needed first. Do what is needed first. I know that sounds fairly simple, but I would ask you this: if it's so simple, how come none of us do it? So I'm going to help you again to be able to walk this out. This is what you do. You put it down on your calendar first. You say, Thursday night, I'm going to hang out with my family. Every morning, you see, I don't think a lot of us have caught up with technology. I think we use technology and apps and stuff to make us better people, better workers, more efficient at work, but we don't really ever use it to make us better Christians. I got a novel idea for you. Set 2 alarms in the morning, one to wake you up physically, and the other to wake you up spiritually. So set it 30 minutes after you would normally wake up and remind yourself to get in your word. Don't let the day just make you do what you would normally do. Do what's absolutely needed. Do that first. And then you prioritize everything else. Now, how do I prioritize everything else? I always begin with the end in mind. So I think at the end of my life, I've done this before, I've closed my eyes and I said, when I die and I lay in my casket, what do I want people to say about me? There's only about 4 or 5 things, and I'm going to give you those. First one is I want them to say that I had a great relationship with God. Second is I was a great husband. Third was I was a great father. Fourth, that I was a great friend. And 5, that I was really great looking. I'm struggling with that last part. But 4 things. Now that I have the end in mind, now that helps me take advantage of the time, of the opportunity I have to reach that goal. Now I look at every single day of how can I use this opportunity to become a better father, to become a better Jesus follower, to be a better spouse. And I put those things on my calendar first. First. I love what the leadership expert Lolly Daskell says. She says to master time management is to set priorities among your goals. There's never enough time to do everything, but there's always enough time to do what's important. But again, it's your choice. It's your choice. I want to show you real quick as an illustration. I got a bowl full of pennies up here. Oh, my gracious. The thing is not getting any lighter after 4 services. So I decided to use pennies because remember I told us our time is valuable. Well, in here, I want this to kind of represent our life, okay? For some of you, It's probably a lot less. Maybe you got a little less time than some of us. Some of us, maybe it's fuller. I don't know. This is just what 66 pennies would get me, or $66 worth of pennies. So in here, basically, we have every decision, every moment, all the time we're going to spend with our friends, time on Facebook, time on Instagram, time with sports, time with stuff. Our normal day. And what I've come to realize is that every time I allow my day to fill itself up with normal, I can never squeeze in the needed. And you see, I think this is where a lot of us go wrong. I have a $20 bill here. We'll just say this represents Jesus, because Jesus said there's very few things that are needed, or indeed only one is. That's to be with him. And so let me show you that when I fill my day, when I fill my life with a bunch of stuff that's normal, I can't ever seem to fit in what's absolutely needed. It never happens. I run out of time to fit Jesus into my schedule. But watch this. Watch this. If I take what's absolutely needed, what's most valuable, what's the best use, and skillfully use my time, and I do that first, then guess what happens? All the time I spend with my friends are Christ-centered. All the time I spend with my family becomes Christ-centered. All the time I spend at work and hanging out, and the time I even allow myself on social media, all becomes Christ-centered. It's not just a song that we sing, it's actually possible if you do what's absolutely needed first. So, if you miss this, guys, Ephesians 5, man, it tells us there's only two ways to walk out your time. You do it wisely or you do it foolishly. And that time is not just fleeting away, it's an opportunity that you have. Mary chose to do what was needed, while Martha chose to do what was normal. My question for you today is, where do you sit? Are you in the other room? Or are you making a priority of sitting at the feet of Jesus? I guess a better question to ask is, what are you going to do next week? Are you going to go and do what you normally would do? Or are you going to make the time to do what is absolutely needed? Be with Jesus. Be with your family. If you'd all bow your heads really quick. I have this on my heart, and man, maybe you've missed your opportunity. Maybe you've missed the time in the past to give your life to Jesus. I want to tell you that, man, we're all in the same house today, and we all have the same opportunity. It doesn't matter how messed up you are or how well you've lived your life. We all have the same chance, the best possible time. We have the opportunity right now. And I want you to know that giving your life to Jesus is so easy. You don't need to pray to a priest. You don't need a magic formula. You don't need to follow or live this certain life. What you need to do is you need to admit, God, I've misused my time. And I've allowed it to just let me do stupid and foolish things that have become my normal. But God, today I want to make you the one thing that is absolutely needed, because I want to give you this one truth, and I hope you take this with you, that God did what was absolutely needed. You see, Jesus looked down on us as sinners, and he knew that there was no way. The Bible tells us in John 14 that there's only one way to the Father, and that's through Jesus. And he said that the only way to get to him, God came down and did what was absolutely needed. Will you do that today? If you will, all you need to do is just pray and say, God, I've messed up. I've been a sinner. I want to live my life for you from here on out. I believe that you came down, you died for me, and you rose again. For everybody else, I want to pray for you. God, I just pray that this week, God, we would put what is needed first in our lives. We would not allow the normal to take control of what we do or to dictate our days any longer. God, we would take advantage and make the most of every opportunity this week we have to sit at the feet of Jesus and to be beside our family. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.